Booger check. Am I good? I think I'm good. Okay, I'm in a rare good mood today, so I just wanted to say that the last video got pretty heavy. Kind of is what it is. That's life. But in this video, I'm going to try to keep it light. We keep it light until it's time to get dark, and then we go pitch black. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's how we deal with death. Can't change what is, so we keep it light until it's time to get dark. And then we get pitch black.
Anyway, a lot of good stuff in this video. A lot of good stuff to get through. We're going over building your own engine mounts, engine offset and setback, and also what you need to know to get an oddball engine like this running in the truck as far as wiring and tuning, and I'll cover standalones and stuff like that. So watch the whole episode, if not for me, for you, if this is what you're wanting to do. Okay, here is my longest running project, my 69 F100 Crown Vic swap with the 6.2 liter in it, and now a Mustang 5-speed. So on this episode, we're going to show you how to take something like this, which is a universal bushing with a DOM shell, polyurethane and the steel sleeve, right?
Right.
And turn it into something like this, baby. Look at that. That thing is a brick shit house. See that? That ain't going nowhere. Here is our 6.2 without transmission. The internet says it's neutral balance. We found out that the internet lies, though. It does look like it is. I don't see any weights on there. And there is the 6R 100. Shoot me a message if you need one of those. 2018 F250 four-wheel drive gasser. It only has 20,000 miles on it. I was able to yard drive it. It's still full of fluid, and the fluid looks pretty good. Oh man. Oh. My lunch is about to come back out. Lord, don't let the shifter go where the sun don't shine, okay? Oh, this has already got terrible noises. So, are you in there? Looks like it. Okay, but then one of them is still in here. Let's put that in the heat pile. Okay. Lunch, stay in my mouth, please. You know, belly, in my belly. on. You were in the vicinity there for a hot second. Oh. No. Let's see you, pal. Okay. They do all appear to be the same length. So there's that. So this is our Tremec TR3650, which, if that sounds familiar, it's because this is a stock New Edge Mustang transmission from like a mid 2000 and later Mustang GT. So it was made it up to a 4.6 liter, which is the same belt housing as our 6.2 liter. You know, this one's just, I can't math, 40% more better, because well, 200%, 4.6 would be 9 something. Yeah, I don't know. Do the math in the comments. Let me know. It's not my strong suit. If I was real good at math, I wouldn't have had to do jobs that were manual labor and or dangerous. But here we are. I think this will work and function just fine, and Mustang clutch parts and stuff I think are gonna fit it just fine. But the question is it gonna go behind the torque of this 6.2? Now, I've definitely run T5s in situations where they weren't really designed for, and I you know, thought what I was doing the right thing here. They're stronger than a T5, that's for sure, but I don't know. I know guys have run them behind coyote swaps in Mustangs, but this is in a half-ton truck with a 6.2 liter, so I mean, we're gonna be the beta tester here on this program. Don't look at my butt. At least on old stuff, the engines are always offset to the passenger side. People said that have said it's to offset the driver's weight and stuff like that. I don't think it is, but whatever. What it is really for is so that you have room for the steering column and steering shaft. Because this thing...
is the steering.
Huh? No, this is the steering. That hole right there? Don't know. It's for something. Probably wires.
Yep.
So this is your motor mount perch on the Crown Vic front end. And this 6.2 liter is a modular-ish engine. It's a lot like a modular, but bigger. It shares some things like the bell housing pattern and the motor mount pattern. But other than that, it doesn't share anything else. So, but it's basically like a big block modular. So you probably could throw Crown Vic motor mounts right in here. Probably. I don't know because I haven't tried it, but the Crown Vic perches here are offset towards the passenger side about an inch. I don't remember the exact measurement, but it's about an inch. So that's about how much offset our motor is going to be here. Because it's lifted up a little high right now, but our concerns are the exhaust manifolds, because this thing is so wide, and steering shaft clearance, enough room to run a steering shaft down there. And can you come around to this side, Ronnie?
Yep.
Don't trip. Over here, exhaust manifold, and especially where it relates to that stud right there. So if you go down this road, just know that these 6.2s are massive. You can see I had to notch the frame rail a little bit on this side for exhaust access. I'm going to plate that all in, and I'm going to box the whole front frame rails. That's going to be in the next episode. So if you like fabrication, stay tuned to the CPR Garage. You're going to want to see what's coming up. Let's get into why these mounts, this isn't centered in here. You know, because if I just centered it up between these holes, the motor mount bushing would be about here. But the problem is with the Crown Vic front end, when you put these into an old truck, the motor mount perches down there are set way far forward. So when you're building performance stuff, ideally you want the entire engine behind the front axle center line, and as low as possible, right? As low and far back as possible will make it handle better, because for lack of a better word, once you have weight in front of the axle center line, it sort of has leverage as far as the weight goes. So like 5 pounds right at the axle center line is 5 pounds getting thrown around. Out here, 5 pounds might be 10 pounds. It might be 15 pounds of action on the chassis and all that. So anyway, I'm not an expert. I'm just a regular guy building junk in his garage like you are. But so you want to have it as far back and low as possible. Now building a street vehicle, this is where you start to compromise. I still do have it scooted back quite a bit, but I ended up pulling it forward some, okay? Because for one, the motor mounts the bottom part would have needed moved back, and then I would have had to like make an angle piece and bolt some other bolts in there. Didn't want to do all that, so I just scooted it back out about an inch. I did have it shoved back as far as it would go with the firewall and all that. Side to side, you want it 0 degrees, right? You want it in the same plane as the truck is. Now, front to back, I have it at about 2.5 inches, 2 to 2.5. 3 would probably be better, but we'll see where we end up at on the transmission when we make a mount for that. The way that I built these mounts, obviously this is as low as it can go, right? So if I need more angle, all I have to do is add some metal underneath those mounts. Or I could even weld those holes up and drill another one a little bit higher, but adding underneath should be the easiest. So I built them so you can kind of shim them to get things right. The way that I have everything mocked up and in there, it is right. And like I said, those mounts are offset an inch that way, and I think that's where I ended up also with my engine. Let's take some measurements and see. Put a straight edge across the front of this pulley and just bring it over and see if it's parallel with the frame rail, like so. Now the frame rail tapers and does funky things, but back here behind this hole, it is parallel. You can see it swinging around a little bit. That's because I got it lifted up off the mounts because they are not in. But when I did it this way, I shuffled it around until it was square. So it's actually needs to go this way a little bit. That's right about where I have it set as far as offset. So let's see what that actually is. If I put that against there, that's about 10 inches from the driver's side frame rail. Stay there, you little booger. And about 9 inches from the passenger side. So I have it offset an inch that way, and I have it as far back as I can go with the motor mounts still making sense. And when I had it setting down, I had it setting on this 3/4 inch piece of board to space the front of the oil pan here off of the cross member. And you got to watch that because it didn't set straight side to side with that. When I had it set down on there, I actually had to use a ratchet strap to pull on this bracket up here and rock the engine a little bit that way to get it to 0. I will tell you kind of how far back it is. Ow. Actually, we'll go from the front cab mount holes. That'll make a little bit more sense. So from the front face of the crank pulley, it's about 10.5 inches back from the front cab mount. And it's sitting a little crooked right now. but this one's shown about 11 inches. So between 10 and 11 inches back from the front cab mounts. I don't know if those are square to each other, but there's a rough measurement. At the firewall, I've got about 1.5 inches clearance to the back of the valve cover. It's closer to 2 when this is setting down level. What was that? And I have a little more on this side because this head is farther forward. See? Yeah, I've got about 2 inches, so 2 to 2.5 on this side. And you need to check if your exhaust is going to fit because it's tight. And it feels like it's pretty well centered on the indent in the firewall. So I think the old motors in these guys were offset to the passenger side like 3/4 or 7/8 of an inch. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that. So any questions, leave them in the comments and I will try to answer them as I get them. And if enough people are asking the same question, I will definitely cover it in an upcoming video. So let's go over transmission and wiring and electronics real quick. I'm just going to give you the kind of 1,000-foot view here. Let's get this out of the way. Okay. So there's several options of what you can do for running this motor. And I'm not just pulling this out of my butt. I researched it. I talked to people in the industry that do tuning and looked at what other people have done. Okay? So basically, your options are to use the stock computer from the donor truck with tuning, and that's the route that I'm going to go. And HP Tuners has a strategy and code and stuff for this truck, so it can, well, not this truck, but the Super Duty. So I did look up on HP Tuners website, and they do support this particular computer. So that's what I'm doing. Thinning the wire harness is terrible. I 100% do not recommend that if you can afford to go a different route. So let me show you this real quick, and then I'll talk about other options you can look into. So welcome to my nightmare. What I'm doing is I disassembled the underhood fuse box from the Super Duty and cut what wires I don't need, and then I'm taking those pins out. I'm only going to need a very few little things in here. That's most of the dash harness. I'm thinning out. I barely need anything of that out of that either. And the thing with these modern trucks and passive anti-theft means that this truck has a transceiver that is your key fob, and the transceiver on the truck, which is the remote or the antenna for the body control module, right? So when it senses that your remote is close enough to the truck, it allows it to start because it has to send a code through that antenna to the body control module, which is this guy in the passenger side kick panel. And this is a module with programming also. It's not just an interior fuse box anymore. So this sends the code to the engine computer, which tells it that when you push the start button, then it is okay to power up the ECM and to start the engine. This is the catch code on the computer here that I'm using. Now, some of the stuff with the wiring is more simple than you would think it would be. There's 2 plugs on this computer, 2 big old plugs. One is the engine harness and one is the body harness. So they kind of made that easier. So what I'm doing, thinning the harness, I'm not going to show much of that because it is effing terrible. And I did a pretty good job marking stuff as I took the truck apart, and for about 150 bucks or whatever on Amazon, I got this factory wiring diagram. So this is a big help. So that the computer, you'll need tuning because you'll have to remove the passive anti-theft, and there's also going to be some other stuff. Now we're running this with a manual, so we have to remove all the automatic transmission safeties. This body control module we're not going to run, so that's the big reason of why we have to bypass the anti-theft. That's going away, and somewhere, yes, I bought this little Dyer pre-wired fuse block and relay block. It was like 30 bucks online. So it took a while to get here from China. So that's what I'm going to use. So this I will use for my ECM relay, fuel pump relay, and to power the key switch and all that stuff. So in the coming episodes, I'm going to show you how to wire that in. Now the reason I have this Mustang 5-speed is because I thought that I wasn't going to be able to run the 6R100 transmission that came in the donor truck. And I'm not running it because it was a 4-wheel drive truck. Work to convert that to a 2-wheel drive transmission is just not going to be worth the hassle. But that's not the reason that I thought it wouldn't work. When I was doing research, guys on the forum said that transmission and the computer to shift needs ABS sensor wheel speeds from all the way around the truck, or at least just the rear, whatever. And I'm not going to have that. So, but I don't think that's true. There is an output shaft speed sensor in that transmission, and it should be able to shift knowing the speed from that and RPM and load and the input speed and all that. If nothing else, you could probably figure out a way to program it and make it just shift based on load and RPM and not need the speed, but that would be a fairly complicated thing to program. So anyway, if that's the route you're going, or you have a 2-wheel drive and you want to keep that, I think it's totally doable. I am not interested in keeping all of the ABS gobbledygook, because the big old control module and stuff that goes on the frame rail here, nah. So it's going to need tuning for the 5-speed. So your other options as far as computer goes, there is a guy online with one of these swapped into a Crown Vic, and he is running it on Holley Terminator X, but he had to retrofit 4.6 liter sensors to it, I believe, as far as cam and crank sensors, because they are different teeth count and all that, and Holley doesn't specifically have a setup for this engine. These are kind of weird because the cam and crank sensors are actually all in the back. So the crank sensor is on the crankshaft at the back, kind of like an LS motor. But I'm going to try to run this with a stock computer, with a manual, as minimal wiring as possible. Different fuel system, but I am going to still run returnless, at least until that doesn't work. Oh, if you didn't want to go the 5-speed route or the OE trans route, any modular transmission should fit this. So 4R100s, 4R70s, 6R80, 10R80, those should all work with the appropriate controller, that is. What most people use on the Crown Vic swap for engine mounts is something kind of like this. And this is what I was going to use, but I just didn't trust it. So what they do with these is put them on the pedestal there and then make a solid mount that goes from there up to the engine.
Okay.
I don't quite trust that. Okay, that is driver's side mount, which is number 1 in there. I'm going to make sure everything is all squared up, recheck my angles, and I'm ready to throw a nice fat tack weld on that guy. And then we'll measure and make the passenger side. Here we go. So let's mount this on the engine and put our lower piece on there, and then we will start mocking it up for the other side. In case you missed it, this is a Ford 6.2 liter engine, which is basically like a big block modular going into my Crown Vic swap 69 F100. All the videos are on my channel. I'll put a link here or here. Which one?
Welcome back.
Okay. I have my stock motor mount bolts to the block.
Yep, and I'm on chair.
And my new beefier mount here actually is more similar to what the factory mount was. It's just that these stick out way too far because they're made to fit a big old Super Duty frame. So throw this on. Come over here, Ron.
Whee!
We'll get these started. Make sure everything clears and stuff. Can you see anything? Make sure everything clears and stuff. It's gonna be kind of like that. Let me find my other 2 bolts and we'll put the other half of it in there and get everything started.
Yay. Yep. Welcome back again.
Roni found my other bolt.
Yep, I did.
Some filthy shop gremlin kicked it under my workbench.
Right there.
Okay. Are you gonna die right now?
No. I don't think so.
Don't die.
Okay. Oh.
Okay, come on.
Whee! Ow.
Oh, do you like my hat? Do you like my hat, Ron?
No, I just got some super close film of it because
Yeah.
I didn't know it would.
Do you like my dark camo CPR garage hat?
Yep,
'Cause
get them now.
you can get them at www.cprgarage.com. And my bolt is stuck.
You need little hands for that?
So whatever size this is, I wonder if it's a 17.
Evil size.
Whatever size this is, I need a standard bolt. This is like quarter size smaller. Okay. And this will end up having a nut welded in it and stuff, but for now, I'm just gonna drop this bolt in there, which doesn't fit through that perfect. So anyway, I'm just gonna drop this bolt in there.
Yep.
And then this guy kind of get dropped in there. What? Anyway, you can go ahead and stop, Roni. We'll bring you back when we got this side all together. So now, disassemble our bushing. So we take the sleeve out of the middle, and I just kind of pounded it with this punch that has a nut on it. And now I've got the bushing thrown on the floor. That's fine. I'll just put that there. Did that on purpose. Now I got to get the bushings out, so I'm going to squeeze this one a little bit. There you go. Usually just kind of get them started and then they'll just walk on right out of there. Just using a bolt, push it out by hand. Okay, there's your DOM bushing. If I could change anything, I would make these not be coated, because they're designed to be welded in, but they have some kind of CAD plating or something on them that you cannot weld to very good at all. So maybe make the weld-in bushing weldable right from the get-go. Okay, I have my measurement for my stand height, and this is just, what do we got? 1.5 inches. This is 1.5 inch hot rolled tubing, and it is 1/8 inch thick, I think, which is like what, 0.125. Plenty beefy for what we're doing with it here. I did have some square tubing I was going to use, but it just wasn't quite narrow enough. It overlapped the bushing. So I'm going to take this, and we're going to mark a center line. Okay, we'll use that as our center line. I'm just going to eyeball this. Okay. I'm going to mark this so that I don't forget later, but probably going to have to re-mark it. This tube is such a big diameter that it's a very small fish mouth, so I'm just going to hit it with the grinder, and then we'll check the fit, bring you back. Okay, there you go. I'll show you that better in a minute, but all that was a flap disc, grinding stone, and a hand file. I don't have a tubing notcher, and you don't need one unless you're particularly doing quite a bit of this type of work. I'd love to have one, but ain't in the cards yet. So, boy, you can't see nothing. Get over here. Where are you? Okay, so my measurement on the truck was about 2 inches to where the base of my DOM tube would be. So I marked this out at 2 1/4. And we're going to start there because I would rather have it start a little long and be able to shave some down rather than cut it too short and have to remake it, because my notch came out good on the first try. So let's keep that notch, you know what I'm saying? I tell you what, if you want to get a lot better at cutting and notching tube, start TIG welding, because you will really have to step your game up. That's what I've learned. Building pipes for the wife's Sportster, I learned that what you can get away with a MIG weld, you cannot get away with a TIG weld. So it'll make you a better joint fitter. Why doesn't anybody make an attachment for a Sawzall for a file? You know, so you could just... They just can't give it to us? That would be too good? Or does somebody make that and I just don't know because I'm dumb? Whew! Because that would be awesome. Alright. We're going to take coating off of here in this area and, you know, do some, then we're going to tack it. We're going to start fitting it. Man, I need like that DD Speed Shop money. I'm over here, I gotta switch grinder discs on my $10 Drill Master grinder. I mean, look, I'm like poor people. Look at me. It's good enough for what it's for now. You know what? Maybe I'll just throw a little guy right there. I turned it and I welded it on the spot that's not ground, ain't I? Oh well. Okay, it's time to mask up. For some reason, when I put this guy on, it makes me sound like this when I talk. Batman. Yep, breathing through a weird crab.
Yes, the fire rises.
What are you doing over here? Get over here for dang sake. Tell you what, if you don't have a drill press, get you one. It's definitely worth it. Things don't mean it. Okay. As far as I can tell, the alternator mount pad here is level with the engine. Got about 0 degrees. You can see this mount is fully installed, but not tightened all the way down. Okay. And I forgot that my tube there and the mount with the bushing are about straight up and down in relation to the Crown Vic engine mounts. The perches anyway here. So when I get my other one mocked up in here, I realized that the measurement that I took was not very good. But it was plenty long, and I ended up trimming it down quite a bit, which I also did on the other side. Because for this to be straight up and down, the motor mount plate is at like a 45, so this ends up with a 45 cut into it. Which is good, because it will make it stronger, because it gives you more surface area to weld. So I'm going to get the bushing knocked back in here. I got this plate mocked up, and we'll get this one in there and tack it, pull it back out and full weld it, and we'll show you all that. Here we go. So now that she's tacked on there, you can see what those two guys look like together. On the other side, I had to fill this back in, but you can see on this side we just squeaked her out there. So now time to full weld this, and I need to knock this out and these out, otherwise it's going to totally melt the bushings. Let's get this welded, and then we will make another brace and a kicker like we did on the other side. Or maybe we'll do something different, who knows. Let's just get freaky with it. Okay, let's finish this dude up. So I've got my first support piece coped and welded on there, and I left it clamped to the table for a good couple hours, and now I'm back out here after supper I'm gonna finish welding up the crack down here. This is all I'm using for my little support kickers. And it is, I think it's 1 inch. Yeah, so it's 1 inch 1/8 wall tubing. And then my main support piece under is 1.5 inches. Honestly, that one piece there is probably plenty, but this will kind of look cooler and more full and definitely can't hurt. Besides this piece back here, the way it wasn't really doing anything, and I feel like it shouldn't just be along for the ride, so we're gonna tie some structure into it. I'm gonna weld that, and then this is my other piece that I coped, and it is going to, can't really show you right now, but you'll see it when I weld it on there in the time lapse. It's gonna go on kind of like that to tie this in and give it some more fore and aft strength. And I didn't really film coping, it's just a bunch of holding it up there, marking it with the Sharpie, cutting it with the cutoff wheel, grinding it with a die grinder, sometimes a file, sometimes a flap disc on there, but it's just really fiddly and takes forever. Here we go. Next up for this, it's motor back out. We're making some boxing plates with speed holes, and we're not just gonna do the thing where, we plate it right here. We're gonna go all the way from about here all the way back to the cab mounts almost. Do it right. Building a race car, people. I'm gonna shoot another coat on these and stick the bushings in. That's ready for the thumbnail. And other than that, thank you guys for watching. Thank you all for subscribing and sharing with your friends. We'll see you in a couple weeks.